Hi, this is Jen Rubin, Editor-in-Chief of the Concern. I am delighted to welcome Don Beyer, who is the representative from the 8th District of uh, Virginia, my home state for many, many years. Don, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. I I've really enjoyed following your long and interesting career, and think you're in the very best place right now. Thanks for
Uh,
founding the Contrarian and for leading it.
well, thank you. Thank you. I know, for those of you who don't know, Congressman Beyer was a ambassador. At the same time, our own Norm Eisen was an ambassador, so they were both situated different places in Europe. But we're glad to have him back in the States. On a really unexpected development, the really assault on the building, the U.S. Institute of Peace, which is a private uh, philanthropic organization. It's a 501(c)(3, to the technical term of it. It is not a government entity. The administration showed up, forced their way through, and purported to fire board members. What happened here, and have you gotten any response? You wrote a very tough letter to the Treasury Department. Have you gotten a response to explain what they think they were doing and what authority they are operating under?
Jen, I've been either the author or the co-signer of scores. It must be pushing 100 letters in the last 9 weeks. We've yet to have a single response. Not at all. You know, we didn't get any in the first Trump administration either. He was quoted as saying it's his first administration, 45, the only people that his administration needed to write back were committee chairs. So nobody else. So we weren't really expecting it, but we thought it was really important to get all the facts on the record. And it is just horrible. Some people, if they didn't understand how it all came about, might think that the U.S. Institute for Peace was like the State Department or the Department of Defense, but it's not. First of all, that building is not owned by the federal government. It's a beautiful building, but it's on private property. It's owned by a foundation. They raised a ton of money from the philanthropy private sector to build it. And even the board, the positions are, I think, confirmed by the Senate with appointees from a variety of different places. But the law made it really clear that it was a 501(c)(3), so a nonprofit organization, and that the president could remove members of the board, but only for committing a felony or for huge malfeasance, big deals. And then also only could do it after consultation with the board. So when Trump basically fired everybody except the two ex officio members, Hegseth and Rubio, and one other third person who's now the acting chair, it was clearly illegal. And when they came to present and said, okay, you guys are fired, get out of the building, they said, no, we're not. There's no authority to do this. We looked up, there are 232,000 501(c)(3s in the United States. Under this rationale, the president could go fire the board on any one of those 232,000 or all those 232,000 501(c)(3s. So they wouldn't leave, which is how the FBI came to throw them out.
My goodness. So as things stand, has USIP taken any legal action? Are they pursuing answers at this point? Where do things stand?
Yeah, they had one case last week, or one hearing last week. George Foote, who's been their lawyer for a long time, a Northern Virginia lawyer, got the judge to do a stay, but there are more arguments to come. And I don't know where the lawsuit is right now. Basically, what they're saying the lawsuit alleges is trying to get the judge to agree with is that the president had no right to do any of this. The existing board is still the existing board, and that they still should have access to their books, their records, and to all their management. In the meantime,
Well,
the acting guy, who's one of the Trump Rubio or Rubio Hegseth and this third guy, has come back and let many of the employees come back, and said that you're not all fired, but it's just going to be new leadership and new manager in town.
ask you a moment about Marco Rubio. He served in the Senate. He was a really eloquent spokesman for human rights, for freedoms. He repeatedly denounced the Castro administration, and now he is making excuses for snatching students off the street. He is carrying the president's message that is really a pro-Putin message. Are you as shocked as other people that he should have just turned on a dime, thrown his principles out the window, and is now doing the bidding of this president?
Shocked and extraordinarily disappointed. I don't know Senator Rubio, Secretary Rubio well at all. But many people I'm close to, the senators Mark Warner and Tim Kaine, do know him well. He got 99 to nothing vote in the U.S. Senate. I promise you, if that vote were held tomorrow, it'd be more like 53-47.
Yeah.
Uh, because he's been such a disappointment, and not just if he came in like a Hegseth, that was already a Trump stooge, fine. But he didn't. He came in as somebody who had some real street credibility and years of
Yeah.
experience. And so it's
Yeah.
extraordinarily disappointing because, oh, I'm hoping that he lies in bed at night and thinks, how did I go from being a responsible Republican conservative statesman to being, um, you're basically ratifying some of the most outrageous public policy moves in our history.
Exactly. So the administration is trying to invoke a 18th century law, the Alien Enemies Act, as an excuse for snatching people off the street without due process, shipping them to a hellhole in another country. They then sent the Secretary of Homeland Security there to pose in front of these people, which was arguably a violation of the Geneva Convention. What is going on? And are you confident that even this Supreme Court is going to put a halt to this?
I'm hopeful. I'm not a fan of the Supreme Court, but um, in the one case we've seen so far, both Amy Coney Barrett and the Chief Justice voted on what I perceive as the right side of justice. I know Justice Barrett got taken an enormous amount of political heat, which is not something that Supreme Court justices usually have to put up with. I'm still optimistic, though, that I want to believe that all of our judges will try to do the right thing. And clearly what Trump has done flies in the face of 250 years of justice and of law. They picked up a postdoc at Georgetown in Arlington and Roslyn, which I represent, the other night. 9:30 at night, three men in masks, unidentified, snatched him and put him in the back of an unmarked SUV and drove him off and shipped him to Louisiana. Again, without ever telling him why. What crimes had he committed? How had he was he jeopardizing American foreign policy? Which, by the way, is the thinnest of regen. This alien, the language literally says you have to be a danger and undermine American foreign policy. How does somebody protesting the Gaza killings on Columbia's campus jeopardize U.S. foreign policy?
It's
Other
shocking.
people, yeah, they've written an op-ed, they've done a tweet. It's and the no due process. I'm still really upset about all the people that are in the jails in El Salvador.
Right.
I
This
mean,
is what Secretary Rubio, if you're listening, this is what Castro does. This is what dictators do. They snatch people off the street. They throw them in a hellhole, only to be forgotten without even telling them what the basis for that is.
with no explanation. It's right out of Kafka.
Yeah, it really is.
And you just think that, okay, some of them may be bad guys. I mean, I'm not, don't love gang members, but if 10% or 25% did nothing wrong, and even the 75% that did something wrong, they never have a chance to present their side of the story.
Exactly. Exactly. The other thing that, of course, is happening that must be impacting your district, perhaps more than any other, is these massive layoffs, whether it's from DHS, whether it's from the State Department, USID, of course. These are people who are performing their jobs. They've been given some BS reason that they were fired for performance reasons, or as probationary employees, they were told that they needed to get out. What's the impact on your district? What are the numbers looking like? And what are these people doing in terms of finding new employment?
Yeah, as of a week ago, we'd already had 14,000 fired. And this is
Oh
just
my
inside
God.
the Capitol Beltway. And those are just federal employees. You probably a similar number of federal contractors. And because, those numbers are hard to get to. I had an early meeting this morning, 7 o'clock. Some poor guy, a federal contractor, they took away his contract. He spent the week firing 200 employees.
Oh
And
my goodness.
the emotional damage to him and to all those families, it's very hard. And Jen, the real tragedy is federal employees, in study after study, year after year, show that they make less money than they would in the private sector. And every time
That's
when we outsource it, we're almost always paying a lot more money per person than as a federal employees. And there in any industry there are slackers, but the huge number of wonderful federal employees who have given their lives to the EPA or USAID or the Defense Department or NASA, and just to be thrown away, it,
absolutely.
we're destroying. We're the best governed nation in the world and have so much to be proud of. And this president and his minions are just tearing it apart.
Absolutely. Now, many of these employees have entities or are themselves part of lawsuits to return them. Can the state of Virginia do anything? Are any of these being hired at the state level, at the county level, the city level to provide them with some source of income, frankly?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the next big challenge. One of the things we try to do make sure is that they still qualify for state unemployment benefits. When Donald Trump and Elon Musk say you're all fired for cause, which is nonsense because they don't even know who these people are. They just fire 20,000 at HHS, for example, that they still should qualify. We did an economic empowerment fair 2 weeks ago just to make sure that people knew where they could get food, rent assistance, housing, things like that. We're trying to intervene now with the banks, the mortgage holders and stuff to give people 2, 3, 4 months of forbearance. And then, which I think will be the first of many, we're doing a job fair on May 3rd. I'm sure we will be trying to gather all the other employers, people from the Northern Virginia Technology Council, the defense contractors, the schools, and just try to help these people land. The good news, most of them are beautifully educated with long, successful careers. That they are high value added individuals, and this is what you, it's going to be really painful, but especially painful for them in the short run.
Right. And in general, I don't know if it's true in your district, a large percentage of federal workers are veterans. And the impact on veterans, on the VA, on VA benefits, on the veterans who are employed is really quite shocking. How are you dealing with the veterans' health issues? What's going on in that area?
Well, the throwaway factoid is in our 9 weeks, this administration has already fired more veterans than any administration in American history.
Mm,
And as you point out, because there's been a veteran preference in federal hiring for a long time, that means that especially the probationary employees have all been fired, lock, stock, and barrel, disproportionately veterans. And so they're really getting hurt. And then when you look at the cutbacks in the Veterans Administration, which was 17,000 the last I heard, they're really undermining people that we're supposed to be taken care of because they're willing to risk their lives and their health for the rest of us.
right. So as we reach the end of our time, I have to ask you because I get asked this question all the time. Are your Republican colleagues bothered by any of this? They have constituents. Some of their people are being laid off. The federal government employs people all over the country. Is there any recognition that this has gone really off the rails?
Jen, I get asked that question a lot, and I have many, many friends. I think about 100 that I consider, cheerful colleagues, but none of them have given a hint that they are willing to break with Donald Trump. When you do, there's a hell to pay with your base on Twitter. You get a primary opponent right away, and we've seen that in the reign of Trump these last 8 years, to break with him as a Republican means you can measure your political career in days or weeks. And that's just sad. And so our larger picture strategy as all the terrible things Trump is doing begin to hit Americans in their home, in their pocketbook, in their families, as his popularity goes down, not just personal popularity, but as the impact of his leadership hits us, the Republicans will be willing one by one to step away. And that has to be our long-term hope.
Well, we certainly hope so. I don't think many Americans voted for this, and certainly not for the catastrophic pain that he's inflicting. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for your lifelong of service, Representative Beyer, and we'll be sure to have you back. There are very few people who understand federal government as well as you do. So thank you for being a resource and a great source of information for our readers and our viewers.
And Jen, thank you so much with Contrarian to getting the news out to as many people as possible.
Thanks so much.
It gobbles up a lot of my day just reading all your Substack.
Don't mean to distract you. Thanks so much, Congressman. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.